For over 20 years, I've led a life of solitude and prayer. Now, for the first time in my life, I'm going to Europe. I'm going on a grand tour in search of some of the finest art treasures in the world. I feel very much at home in Holland. We don't have canals like this where I live in Norfolk, but we do have the lovely flatness and the high, clear skies. In the 17th century, Amsterdam had a golden age when art was for everyone, not just the aristocracy. This small country produced more great artists per square metre than other countries per square mile. Hence the extraordinary wealth of the Rijksmuseum. The gallery is full of pictures which once adorned the homes of rich merchants. Portraits and still lives abound, but the staid and upright Dutch were surprisingly tolerant in their tastes. They relished a moral drama, enjoying the sheer ordinariness of life and the hidden meaning it could carry. This is a delightful picture by Ter Bosch. Look at the gleaming oyster satin of the girl's robe and the floorboard shining in the sunlight. But I don't want to tell you too quickly what the title is, because it'll spoil the story. Let me just say that it used to be called The Paternal Admonition. Now, if that's the title, we can read it quite easily. There's Papa, hand lifted in admonition. He's telling off his erring daughter, and she bends that submissive neck with embarrassment. You know how we all feel when we're told off? And Mama is withdrawing from the whole situation, letting them get on with it. Now, that was the early reading, and it held firm during Victorian times. It made sense of a delightful picture. And then as time went on, people began to look rather more closely. And it began to dawn upon them that Papa was rather young to have a daughter of this age. And after all, was it not peculiar that Papa should tell his daughter off in what was obviously a bedroom? And they looked more closely still, and Papa was not wagging a finger at her, he was holding something up to her. And very dimly, almost invisible now, you can see what he was holding up was a coin. And now the whole thing turns topsy-turvy and falls into a new pattern. What we have is a brothel scene. That's the madam at the back, sipping her wine, looking ladylike, while the two young people concerned work out how much it's going to cost. She's demurring over price, or perhaps, to give her the benefit of the doubt, she's wondering whether she really wants to go the whole way with this rather unprepossessing young man. He clearly thinks he's the cat's whiskers with his hat with this enormous feather. What's going to happen, we don't know. It's that moment of tension. Could go either way. But what tells us, alas, the way it's likely to go is the attitude of the one moral character in the story, and that's the dog. The dog who's clearly ashamed of the way they're acting, hanging his head, disgraced. So it's up to us. Don't go by the title. Use your eyes, look at the picture, and decide for yourself what you really think it means. Some artists were inspired by drama and spectacle, and none more superbly than Rembrandt. The Night Watch, oh, what a picture. But I must pass it by for one that shows his intimate understanding of human relationships. This is the Rembrandt that moves me most. The Jewish bride, though in fact nobody quite knows who this couple are. And yet, when you think of bride, you think of a young girl with all the illusions before her. And this is rather a worn couple. That long, thin face of his. And she's past her first youth. They're holding one another with a tenderness that is very, very rare. And what I think the man's action is not just putting a loving, protective hand on her breast. He is putting the golden chain around her neck. But I think her face, with its deep inner awareness, is understanding what the golden chain of love means. When you love, you lose your freedom. And she puts her hand tenderly on his to say, I accept that. We are bound to one another. I'm responsible for you, and you are responsible for me. I think another lovely touch here is the way she has her hand on her womb. Because the normal outcome of committed love is fruitfulness. It's something we don't think any artist could make visible, what marriage is, and yet somehow Rembrandt, that man who didn't seem to have known much stable married love himself, a wife who died, and then mistresses, but this clearly was what he wanted, this total trust.
Amsterdam has a museum completely dedicated to the work of Vincent van Gogh. It's a belated recognition of an artist who sold just one picture during his lifetime. This clinical interior reminds me of the mental hospital where he suffered such anguish. All his work is intensely personal. That's why we feel so involved. Even his brushstrokes reveal his inner turmoil. In the end, alone and bewildered, he took his own life.
Now this is his picture of his bedroom, the center of the little house he so loved, his own heart, as it were. And it's such a frightening picture. It's so claustrophobic. The walls all seem to be kind of closing in on us. There are two doors, but notice they're both shut. We can't get through them. We can't see through the window. There's such loneliness here. The double bed with the two pillows, the two chairs, and there's only one man. And over the bed, that weird, tumultuous landscape that seems to be a kind of picture of what Van Gogh's mind might have been like when he was disturbed. But Gogh here is expressing intense anxiety and frustration, ordered, held in a vigorous, trembling tension. And to me, one of the most fascinating things is, it's not what he thought it was. He knew it was one of his best, he said that, but he also said, in this picture, I'm trying to paint peace and restfulness and tranquility, the great stability of the bed. And yet that bed looks like a great sort of box holding in the animal of the bedspread that's trying to escape in this kind of scarlet fury. So when an artist tells us what he's doing, don't believe him. Look and see what he's done. He's done something wonderful, far more wonderful than rest, because he's made beauty out of disorder. He's made pattern out of tumult. And he's done something that gives us all an enormous amount of hope.
Next time, our grand tour takes me to Antwerp.